All right. Hi, everyone. I think we might have some more people joining in a bit later, but in the meantime, we can still get started. Thanks for joining our event, and hopefully it will be an evening full of discussions together. So to get started, a little bit about Ladies at UX. We are a global organization with chapters in over 50 cities. And within the Amsterdam chapter, we have over 3,000 members. We aim to promote female talent and increase female visibility both within the industry, so within companies, but also at events and conferences and stages. But while this is our goal, we are still welcoming everyone from all backgrounds, from all genders, ages, race, and expertise as well. And we also have a Slack group, so if you haven't joined it already, feel free to join that as well through this link. We can also share that in the meetup group. You can find all the links. There we talk about any struggles we are having, any events that we find interesting, job postings, freelance work, and so on. And moving on, we also collaborate with a professional diploma with a discount with the, sorry.
Yeah, with the UX Design Institute. Basically, it's a diploma for starting in UX. So if you want to know the basics or you know someone that wants to know more about it, check it out because the discount is quite big.
Yes. And moving on again, before we start with the event, I wanted to give one note as well about being kind to yourself within these times, because early on in the Corona days, in about March, I saw this quote online that said, "It's okay to not be at your most productive during a global pandemic." And that was something that I needed to hear. And I think the same applies to being creative. It's nice to work on your creativity, and it can also be good for the soul and the mind, but you don't have to be your most productive self every day. That should be okay. And moving on to the next slide, before I let Irene take over, I want to give a little bit of an introduction about her. So she is a UX designer in Picnic who is passionate about product design and illustration. She works in both the strategy and design of the store app. Besides crafting user-friendly interactions, she is also busy making illustrations. She is always up for experimentation and ways to incorporate illustration into user experience. So we also asked her to give us some fun facts about herself and found out that she is really into food and especially ramen. And she says that her homemade veggie ramen is very loved, not just by herself, but also her friends. She is a proud owner of over 15 sketchbooks. I can relate to this, all of them uncompleted. So she has a bit of an obsession with stationery and likes purchasing them a little more than the amount that she can use. And she also loves trying new beers, and she's a fan of IPAs in particular, and especially those that have a well-designed packaging that catch the eye. So without further ado, I will stop sharing my screen and leave the stage to Irene.
Thank you. That was, yeah, even funny hearing that about myself from you. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. But first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who has spent a bit of their afternoon here today with us to talk about something that is just a true passion from my side, which is creativity and ways that we can explore this really cool field of user experience. Do you all see my screen? I think so, right? Okay, good. So Cesu has said a bit about me, so I'm not gonna bore you a bit more about me and my details, but yeah, my name is Irene with an A in the end, and I'm originally from Spain. I've been here in the Netherlands for around 3 years. I speak no Dutch, and I've been a product designer for over 4 years, almost 5 years. And well, the first years that I came to the Netherlands, I joined the Ladies at UX community, and it was truly inspiring, and I'm really happy to have this talk here today with you all. But yeah, so let's move on and get started. I wanted to take this sort of talk from the point of view, of course, of more of my personal experiences and things that have really helped me in my journey as a designer to have a bit of more of a creative mindset, not to be so scared of new challenges, and just, you know, train my brain basically. The first one starts a bit at uni, the good old days. Basically at uni, I studied BA in graphic design. This was in the University of Oxford in UK, so I moved quite early from Spain to the UK, and yeah, I actually had no previous experience in art or anything related to that. I was more of a nerd girl studying maths and physics. I actually was aiming to become an architect, but yeah, I'm really happy I didn't. And well, that led me to a few moments that I crashed with my professors, because I came with this very technical background and mindset that everything was either right or wrong. And that is totally not the way to approach design. Definitely, I had to learn over time how to have a bit of more, critical approach to things. These are some of the assignments that we had to do. So you see, we did a lot of stationery, posters, editorial work, and it was very personal. All of these things can be very, created very differently from different professors, and even from yourself and your tutors. I remember this very clearly, asking for really clear feedback how to take my designs to the next level, but that was very hard to say. And over the time, I just learned my way into the field. I was able to actually do a few things that I'm very proud of and I really enjoyed doing, because I really learned to blossom in the field by just looking at a goal, at what I wanted to do, and not following some of the criticism, and getting really, follow a lot my passion. And one of them was human-computer interaction, basically interfaces. But then it came the last year, which was the dissertation time, which you didn't have to just follow the things that you were learning or follow your passions, but you had to, come up with something of your own, have your own voice and your own opinion about a subject, have a critical topic and assignment, basically. And this was a scary thing to me. I remember very clearly that my teacher was telling me, now it's no longer an essay. You actually have not just to do all of the analytical and research that you've been doing so far, but you have to, break it apart, take it one step by step, look at what you find it makes sense or what you can relate to each other, and make a whole new thing with it, a whole new, basically use your own voice and your own judgment and bring your own ideas to this topic. And that's where I learned a bit about critical thinking. My dissertation was around the topic of affective design, how the role of aesthetics in human-computer interaction. It was a topic that was really, really interesting. I got really obsessed about it, but also very hard to navigate. There were so many thoughts and so many things out there. So definitely, learning critical thinking was something that I appreciated a lot from university. Then moving on to more my other passions beyond basically work at school. At this time, I had a bit of free time on my hands, not so much today, and I wanted to learn new skills that I wouldn't necessarily learn in school. I remember one of them was lettering. I was really obsessed about seeing these, trends in social media, especially in Instagram, about daily lettering, daily type, and so on. I'm like, wow, I would love to reach this one day and to be as good as these guys. So, I said to myself, why not just start? Because it was one of these. It was a challenge, a daily challenge, that you had to start uploading one of them a day. I got a comment. No, sorry. And I lost my browse. Okay, sorry. Moving on. Okay, sorry. I couldn't find my mouse. But basically, I picked up this challenge and I started uploading one of my drawings every day. I'm showing you very deep back, like 2 years ago sketches, so please don't judge. But the thing with the challenge and why I'm showing you this is because I really learned the habit of just practicing daily creativity, daily drawings, that really pushed me and motivated me to think beside my assignments, beside what my research was telling me, or other things. And I was doing this truly for myself. And I found out that by sharing in social media, I had a sort of commitment to, like, not my followers, because it was just me and my friends, but to this, habit that I was building. And I actually met a few people doing the same thing as me. And it was like, in the end, we were gym buddies, because we were both of us pushing each other to continue to complete this challenge that we had set. So I did this for over 2 to 3 years, actually 3 years. I was doing daily drawings, and I achieved quite a few things that if I look back, I'm like, wow, this is quite cool. I cannot do this now. I would need to practice a lot more to achieve this. And I'm quite proud that all of that practice had led me to really good opportunities and to evolve my illustration skills to things like this that I do these days. And basically it has been thanks to just being very stubborn and practicing every day. And just, it's a muscle, basically. Your hand and all of these skills, you need to practice them. Then up to my last point, which is basically a creative challenge that I set to myself. Maybe 2 years ago or so, I picked up the UI. You might have heard of it, but it's basically a challenge that you can join, and you follow, and well, you can join this anytime, and it's 100 days of UI of interfaces. You have to follow a topic like you can see here, search or settings and so on, and you have to create an interface for that. You're totally free to do as you please. And I said, okay, I'm going to embark in another challenge. Yet again, you see I have a thing here. This I had to find motivation though to pick this up, because this was actually while I was working, and definitely I didn't want to continue doing more interfaces after spending 8 hours a day doing interfaces. So, okay, how can I make it exciting for me? And I set to myself a goal that not just to pick up any cool trend that was out there on Dribble, but to actually, look for things that were truly new to me, like different problems or approaches that I had never done before. Like this one is an example that I did of a checkout flow for a Jewish cafe that I had nearby. And at that point, I had never done checkout flows or anything so fun. And any navigation, side navigation like horizontally and with illustrations and everything. I'm like, okay, I completed this a lot of hours, but aside the animation and the fancy stuff, it really, I was really inspired by other applications and so on. Like I really had to immerse myself in other industries that I was not used to. So that was really fun. Another thing was creating an interface for a car display. Nothing, I had not done this before at all. I had no clue. I did a bit of research on best practices, how to not lose the focus of the driver, how to try to create interactions with the screen, not necessarily with buttons, things like that. And it's can be improved, of course. It's not the most horrible, but I did learn quite a bit, and I'm happy I did this. And then, as a side joke, I kind of did the interface of one of these Black Mirror episodes. I don't know if you saw this one, but it's this crazy social media app that, anyway, I thought it was fun. I think the topic was dashboard or something. So you see, I with this challenge, I tried to just push myself out of my comfort zone a bit and do interfaces and interactions that I had never done before, but try to solve problems that were truly unique to me. And was I unique in the end? Was I really reinventing the wheel? I don't know, but in general, what I did learn was a lot about other industries and other best patterns and things like that I had never done before. So if I have to summarize all of these ramble and stories about my life, is basically that, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that to, continue creating this critical thinking or this mindset that we all share as designers, that is really going to take us to the next step in our careers and in our paths to become, very analytical and critical, and that really boosts our outcomes. then yeah, never stop practicing. You don't have to fix yourself on where you want to be, but just taking the first step to get there. As we were saying early, we don't have to pressure ourselves at this time, especially that it's really hard to be creative every day, but just at least do something and every day or as frequent as you can, that is checking the box of what you want to achieve. And finally, yeah, don't be afraid to start somewhere and combine things from where you see and make it with time more your own, create your own style, and that's it. I think that's the way to go. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that I inspire you a bit or just share some fun stories with you today, and happy to have a bit of a Q&A session now with you. That's all I have to say.
Cool. Thank you for that presentation, Irene. So if anyone has questions, you can either go ahead and just jump in, ask it yourself, or if you don't want to speak up, you can also type it in the chat box and we will read it out for you. So any questions? I see some people are clapping, so I think, Irene, you did a nice job. And if there aren't any questions, in the meantime, I will start with one. This was something that I was asking Irene while we were working on the talk as well, just having a run through. But maybe you can share a bit more about your inspirations with us. So you mentioned a TV show like Black Mirror. Maybe there are other things as well that you could share with us.
Yeah, definitely media inspires me a lot. What I see on TV, my favorite TV shows. I get really inspired by creators. I have, yeah, my social media is flooded with illustrators, people that are very crafty and artsy. So in Instagram, we follow some accounts like Higala, which is a watercolor illustrator that shares a lot of really cool tutorials online. I don't know what else. Dribble, definitely, I have an obsession over it. I just take it with a, like the pinch of salt. Like I don't, you know what I mean. I don't try to get too obsessed with these things. But that's it, I think.
Okay, cool. That's I also see some questions that are coming in now. Thanks for the answer. So, for example, I'm also interested in illustration, and I find myself going through Instagram like crazy and following a lot of accounts, but it can be a bit scary at first as well, where to get started and how to get going. So Eugene asks, when you were doing the daily UI challenges, did you have any guidance? So maybe a mentor, or did you follow some courses?
Good question. Actually, I studied it, like everything I started without thinking much about it. Like, okay, I have to do the first one and just go for it. Then I convinced a friend of mine to join with me. So it was pretty cool because we were giving each other feedback. And I remember after the first few weeks, my design team at the time, which I was in an agency, so we were a lot of designers, were also trying it out. So it was cool to bring a few of my colleagues on board and we were giving each other feedback. And but also what helped me a bit understanding the challenges was the Collective UI website that I shared. They have a lot of examples of previous people that have submitted the work. So yeah, that's a bit how I navigated the challenge.
Nice. Alexander also has a question. Would you say that as a UX designer, you should also focus on the ability of illustration and UI design to get a job? I know at Usabilla you were able to use these skills a bit, and the juice shop app you mentioned looked a bit similar to Picnic in some ways. So do you think this helped you?
Personally, I think it's very strong to have this creative flexibility in your mindset. To me, I use illustration for that, to try to look at problems or ideas in my head and try to portray them in my illustrations. if you are not a person that likes drawing or anything like that, that's okay. But at some point, as a UX designer, it's very important to have all of your source, your critic, your analyze solution or idea, and be able to share it with your team, with your stakeholders, and so on. So that ability to communicate an idea, it's really important. So yeah, it's key to be able to visualize or explain yourself in some way.
That's a very good point. And Beatrice asks, do you currently experiment with other things besides UI, UX to steer creativity? So in your personal life, maybe?
Yeah, I was a bit more active at the beginning of the quarantine. Now, as you might all feel like, I'm a bit, yeah, I have so many hobbies. I was doing embroidery at some point.
Wow.
I want to pick it up again. I stopped at my second piece. I want to do screen printing, which, yeah, it's related a bit to illustration, but at some, yeah, I would really like to print like t-shirts or posters. I think that's it. Yeah, or cooking also. I think that's also very creative, right? So that counts.
Nice. Also, I recently went to a letterpress workshop at NDSM, and I can recommend it to people who might be interested, just to get out of the screen and try doing something with your hands. It helps to, yeah, get offline occasionally.
Hi, I also have a
Irene.
question.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit intrigued by the long waiting line in the chat, so I thought I'd just speak up. First of all, thank you, Irene, for your presentation. It's been very inspiring, actually. I have two questions. One is in the field of UX, which is like really big, based on the different points where you have to design a user experience, from research to usability to the well, front end or let's say yeah, like visual design of any objects or interface. Where do you see yourself most, or do you play all roles?
Good question. I ask myself that. I think it really has changed along my career. I really started executing a lot. So early on, I was really doing interfaces, but really together with the development team. Didn't have any experience with stakeholder management or pitching or strategy. Now I've definitely learned those skills a bit more, and I quite enjoy like all the big puzzle and the unknowns. So I really like the early stage of research and strategy, but I cannot forget about all the creativity that comes with the UI and the solution. So I'm happy that in my position I can do both. So I cannot choose, to be honest.
All right. Do you also, in your company, do you also work on the user experience, like inside the company? Or, for example, what we did at my previous workplace was we facilitated design thinking workshops in different parts of the company to kind of well, educate the whole company on that topic of like creativity and tear down some boundaries.
Yeah, that's really nice. We are starting to do those as well. So a colleague of mine is really on top of the facilitating workshops and so on. And he's, yeah, helping a bit more the CS team and the analyst team doing these things.
Oh, okay. Okay, my second question. So you showed the interface of the inside the car with the music dashboard. What was your motivation to designing that?
I think it was, so I was getting more and more bold as the weeks went on with the challenge. And it was the fact that I had done maybe a TV interface beforehand. And I was thinking, oh, what else? Like trying to check all the boxes. So I was like, I've never done a TV interface, right? A car interface. So I just went for it. And I think music players are so universal and quite easy to tackle from a point of view. So I just went for it.
All right, thank you.
Cool. Jim, thanks for hopping in. So if anyone else also wants to ask their questions directly, we encourage that. And if not, then here's a question. Did you at any point request the opinion of other people, so friends and family, for example, on your designs, and did they affect the way you design? For better or worse?
For my, yeah, definitely. I really like showing people what I do. I think everyone is creative, at least from my point of view. We have a bit of this pursuit to ask for feedback and a bit of appreciation after you've spent quite a few hours trying to design something or to draw something. So for example, with my interfaces, yeah, I really like sharing with my boyfriend, for example, because yeah, actually he's also a developer working in tech and in iPhone. So I know I will definitely have the developer point of view in any of my ideas. And if he tells me, oh, like you are getting too crazy, you know, too out of control as a designer, that you're making it even more complicated, trying to be too fancy. Yeah, he does it in a nice way, okay. Then I definitely, yeah, I get a really good feedback, and definitely he helps me a lot, and I change some things. With my family, yeah, I don't know, if I share it with my parents, they will say always that they love it. So it's only if I want an ego boost, then I do share it with them.
And actually, as part of this question, maybe since you were sharing a lot of what you did on Instagram, did you find that people started finding you as well and giving feedback? Like, did you form a community in that way?
Some other question coming? Maybe should I answer you, and then the next person, a brave person, can. Yeah, definitely. I think, well, you know, Instagram and social media works in very weird ways. At first, it was definitely just me and my friends. They were obviously giving me really good feedback or just appreciating what I did, and that was enough. But then, yeah, when some of my posts got a bit more attention, I got some other people with the lettering challenge, for example, telling me how much they loved one or the other, as like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. So the community in Instagram was quite good, I think. Anyone wants to talk?
I'm waiting in case someone speaks. All right. In that case, okay, so this is about one of your key learnings from the presentation. Do you have an example of how critical thinking helped you finding your way as a UX designer?
I think so. Yes. So that's a very good question. For example, it helps me. For me, critical thinking, first of all, is just my inner voice, my just kind of thing that I have in the back of my head that it's telling me to go follow this path or that path, or it's really giving me direction in all of the research that you can do in projects. So in UX, for example, you can start doing a lot of research on best practices, competitor analysis, you know, other applications that are doing similar things. And then at some point you have spend 2 days taking a lot of notes and say, okay, now what do I do? What does this all mean? And for me, critical thinking just means to break apart what matters to you the most, the challenge that you have at hand with your users, and yes, see how each of these other competitors or all of this data it's doing, and combining it for yourself. That helped. That's yeah. I hope that explains a bit what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Cool. I feel like a newscast anchor who has a little bit of delay until the sound comes to the studio, but it's because I'm waiting for possible people asking questions. So Jane asks, and this is about the current Corona days, basically, could you give us an example of how you improvise the energy and creativity with your remote teams?
Nice, good question. To stay creative. Well, I can say that I'm very lucky in my design team, for example. We really love feedback sessions. We've always been, we've been like this since before Corona and before remote times, and it's very easy for us to just join this specific session that we have for feedback on our projects, and just go and share each other's ideas. And sometimes it gets, as we all know, like 2-hour session instead of like 1 hour. So out of those sessions, we really we bump into each other a lot of ideas. So that makes it very productive. So having a dedicated session, I think it's a good way to know, okay, I have to come into the session with a clear mindset and forget about all of the other stress or previous meetings, and come in with a fresh mind. A personal tip is that if I know I have one of these meetings that I have to give my 100%, I maybe have a little break beforehand and stare at a wall or just through the window, so I can switch back to reality and come back again to work. And it makes me think a bit more clearly when I'm sharing feedback with others.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Something we've done at my company is that we have 2 team calls every day. The first one is stand-up, but we have a second call in the afternoon, and that is not about work, just to discuss any random things. And at some point we did stopped coming up with ideas for things to discuss. So then we were talking about work again, and it turned into a second stand-up. But then you have to check yourself and remind that, hey, this is to relax, and this is so that we can stay as a team and still be part of each other's lives as well. So that has been helpful. But if anyone else has ideas, please write them in the comments, jump in and say something if you like. Here's another question. So when you were doing one of the challenges you mentioned, did you have the idea that you caught yourself creating designs in the same style every day? Or was it easy to forget your previous designs and think of something completely different?
Good point. Yeah, I think I on purpose tried to not look at what I was doing. Like, when you have some creators that you look at their feed and it's so color coordinated, everything is so nice. I kind of achieved this. I admire them for all this consistency. I am personally, I don't come from that, so it wasn't that difficult. Any advice or tips that I was trying to follow, it was with time I created a bit of an inspiration mood for myself for things that I really wanted to test. Like one of them was like the car display, or I just had a lot of inspiration. Of course, I created collections on Dribble, on Instagram, things that I want to see, and then I tried to go from one to the other things that were a bit challenging for me.
Nice. And I'm guessing this next question is more about your day-to-day work, but do you also test on users or change your designs by talking to the users?
Oh yeah, definitely. For example, today we did some usability testing, and every week we do. We are quite cool, quite good at this. We in Picnic, I think we are lucky to have a very good user researcher in-house that sets up weekly testing, and it's part of a process. So if I have some hypotheses or things that I'm doubting, I know I can definitely show it to like at least 5 users that week, and they will let me know their thoughts, and the next week we iterate until we're 100% happy that it works.
Nice. And Alexander asks, are there any programs that you would say are key to learn if you are getting into UX and UI?
For sure. I think, well, these days there's so many. I'm sorry, back in my time, I'm sounding like my grandma, but no, but really, I think it's changed so much in the last years. It's crazy. But I personally use Figma, and I quite like it because, with Figma, you can do even illustrations. If you're into vector illustrations, you can do that. Animation, you can create even presentations for your team and share them. And I don't know, it's very versatile. Other thing, if you like an animation, I think principle. It's a cool one because you can do very easy but more high-end animations, micro animations, and even character and animating and so on with that. And other tools, yeah, with those are your definitely covered. But if you want to go the next step, maybe Miro is nice because you can do remote collaboration these days. I think it's quite important, and as a UXer, you definitely need that, even in UI.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There are so many different tools that one can use, and it often depends on the company that you work at and what they're already using. So then it's more about the categories of tools that there are, and then you have to choose. So what do you design with? What do you do usability testing with? If you want to run A/B tests, which tool do you go for then? Or screen recordings, and so many options. I see the next question is back to the daily UI.
Sorry.
Yes, jump in.
I would like to refer to the last question. So about a month ago, I went to like a seminar about transferable skills. So it's about how can we use the soft skills we have from any part of our life and transfer them to our workplace, etc. And there, the lecturer really emphasized that hard skills, the importance of hard skills decreases more and more, and soft skills become more and more important. And something like handling specific software is a hard skill, but I think what's way more important is finding out like what are the soft skills that I can bring to the table, especially in UX, where you have to communicate with users, you have to empathize with users, but you also have to bring the result that you gain from that and communicate it to different interdisciplinary teams, whether it's other UX designers or people that are experts in the field of the company. So maybe people from IT or insurance, etc. So I think being able to handle specific software is not that important, especially in UX.
That's a very good point, especially as all the tools change, and you can always find and learn a new tool. There are a lot of tutorials online, and a lot of them aren't even free, and it's a good start.
Right. What I find really interesting is what kind of methods do you guys use at work, or what kind of methods do you think are important to be able to use or to have it used before?
For UX in general, you mean, or to collaborate with your team?
Yeah, let's focus, for example, on user research.
Well, I was mentioning earlier a bit of research on the best practices or benchmarking and things like that. I think that early research and so on, we do it a bit randomly. Personally, each person does it a bit different way. But what we do well is having this session that I said, and we just have to be very good in like with the soft skill of like presenting your findings and articulate well your why or your approach to a project. We like following a bit of the method of the thinking of the thoughtful tree. I don't know if that's the proper name of, I think Spotify created it. And you follow this tree that you start with the why, your data, your opportunities and solutions, and you kind of branch from there and follow and try to articulate well the solutions that you are doing.
Interesting.
I will try to find the right name. I'm very bad.
Yeah. Maybe someone else has heard of it and kind of reference it in the chat or something. Because I heard of the Spotify model before with the MVP, starting with the MVP. But
execution tree. Thoughtful execution tree. Anyway, that has been that's the one that I've been doing the most, trying out the most these days. I like it.
Nice. Thanks.
Oh, I'll take a look at that. Oh, and also these resources that are mentioned, we can share them in our Slack afterwards, so you can find the links there as well. Great. Back to the question about the daily UI challenge. Were you able to do research before starting the designs? And if yes, what kind?
My challenges or my everyday design?
With the UI challenge. So I'm guessing this goes
Okay.
back to inspiration and stuff.
If I had a big task like the car display, I try to do a bit of light research, probably like Medium or any articles lately that had best practices for displaying car interactions, basically. So I will just try to learn a bit of background information. And then, I don't know, I also try to see the market, of course, Tesla and like BMW are doing, and all others that are quite good at that. So a bit of that, and then, yeah, try to find inspiration from other people, social media and things like that. I didn't have much. Yeah, it was like one day research, a few hours. I didn't go too deep into the topic, to be honest.
By the way, initially our plan for this event was to do like a little bit of a Q&A and then open up the discussion to everyone, but there are so many questions to go through that we've still been doing a Q&A. I hope everyone is cool with that. The next question is one that is definitely not new, but an ongoing one from Matthias. How do you think about the balance between, on the one hand, the inclusion of illustrations and novel UI elements, and on the other hand, established design guidelines?
Wow, really good question. How could I answer this? I think if we are not doing UI guidelines that are inclusive, then they shouldn't be guidelines at all. If that's what you mean. For me, guidelines are patterns that just work for everyone, and are solutions that include all of your users, your target users.
I think this is more about like functionality or, ooh, pretty designs here. So then how do you balance it?
Well, kind of similar then. If it's about any patterns or interface or interaction, if it's not making what, or doing what it's supposed to be doing or claiming to do, then it's just not, not effective, not doing its thing. It's not successful. I think UI or illustrations that are beautiful are enhancers of an experience that its base is actually achieving a goal, and then you can create a lasting effect on the user. But in general, interfaces that are with products and so on are just a way of communicating, nothing more. And then the beautiful and so on comes a bit afterwards.
Well, we talked a lot about visual design today. Is there maybe any literature that you can recommend for getting started?
Well, I read the most during my uni days. So let me remember some of the things that I enjoyed. I remember this one that it was about lettering, or just the history of fonts, but in a nice way. It was Just My Type, it's called. I don't know, I enjoyed that one because it was like a chapter per font and explained some fun facts. I really just enjoyed learning about, back in the days before in industrialism, about Art Nouveau and all of these art movements and how they came to be. I read so much about Art Nouveau. I was really obsessed about it. I could recommend any book that discusses the topic, because it's actually quite opposite to what I was saying earlier. They were just designing for the sake of creating beautiful things and not for what they were doing. But it was such a change of an era that really tried to challenge and change the mindset of people that were just used to just mass production. So I don't know, Art Nouveau and reading about that makes you think a lot, I think, in general.
Nice. Okay, the next
I
question
have
is
a
a long one.
follow-up question to the books. Sorry for interrupting. I was just curious, how do you, what literature would you recommend to read, and maybe you know, that keeps you motivated, keeps you curious, keeps you sharp in the industry, from the UX, UI? It's not necessarily how to create UI, but to be a better soft skill person, like that.
Very good point. For me, for soft skills, I've been really trying to finish this one that is, what was it, Agile UX. I think that helped me because, I mean, for me, a soft skill that is important for us is how to manage projects and ourselves and everything, you know, this North Star that we have in our head of what we want to do. So processes are an obsession of mine, and that's, yeah, I like reading about that. So for me, Agile UX, the book, yeah, I have it over there. It's just a very standard. That's a good one. I don't have like more physical books, but mainly I just read most of the things on Medium. As you probably know, like Collective UX is really good, or Spotify blog, it's really good. What else? It's quite nice. I really look forward to the Dribble post these days. I think they have really good content creators. If you, I don't know how much you are a fan of Dribble, but I'm obsessed. And these days they put a lot of attention into the blog, and you can subscribe. And I really like their articles.
I'm not subscribed, but I will after this. And since you mentioned Medium, I will highlight that indeed it's a great place to check. Irene writes there, Agata writes there, Valentina, also from our community. She has tons of blogs there. So I definitely encourage everyone to go check it out and subscribe to different publications on Medium as well. There's tons of UX related blog posts. Let's see, we are down to 2 final questions, and I think that's just about right with the timing we have as well. So would you say you mostly implement an iterative strategy when designing UI elements, or do you plan out everything in advance and design it in afterwards? Or if you do both methods, which of the 2 do you prefer?
Very interesting question. Let me see. I am a person that likes planning and knowing a bit the scope of projects beforehand. So I will have a bit of an idea of the flows for sure, because I don't want to miss any edge cases or anything. So if, depends on how far I go with my planning. Sometimes it's just a bullet list of things that I kind of forget to design. And yes, maybe that is my answer. And then I will just go into the designing, but it's not just one time that you design it. I think for me, it's I create the first version, then we iterate, then we go over it, and we really like narrow it down into what we want to share with development.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your team a bit as well. I'm a planner and I would love to plan out everything, but we are a small team and we like doing things fast, and we can try. If it doesn't work, we'll fix it then. So then you have to be a bit faster, and indeed after the first draft, you can go back to it. And final question of the evening. How much do you take ethics such as too much engagement into account in your designs? I'm not sure about this question actually. How much do you take ethics such as too much engagement into account in your designs?
Yes, that was my question. I will explain it. I just watched the Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix. And there they talk about the dangers of people getting addicted by having too much engagement. So I was wondering, how do you take that into account?
Social media engagement, or just engagement?
Just in general, that people stay on your app.
Yes. What my opinion about this is?
Yes.
Well, actually, I've never had to design yet for application or products that want the user to spend the longest they can in the application. in Picnic, for example, we actually aim for 5 minutes checkout process. So we want the user to spend the least amount of time as possible, because we are all about like saving you time in doing groceries. That's the whole point of ordering a delivery to your house and not going to the store. So I will have to say that, yeah, now that you made me question this, I've never tried to catch users' attention and really try to make them stay. So I haven't had that dilemma yet.
Yeah, I guess it really depends on the product that you work on. Yeah, for example, I work at a startup that does website personalization. We don't have to try to catch people at the right time with marketing messages. If you're selling sneakers or if you're a mobile gaming app, then you want to keep people engaged a bit longer. Although I have to say, I am getting a little addicted to Picnic, but that's mainly, again, because of the times we're living in, and I don't want to go to the store too much. So I'm like, oh, what else can I order? What else can I stock up on? And I do see that tendency, but I get what you mean, that it's not what Picnic tries to do, indeed, with a more simple checkout process. And thanks for explaining your question, Martha. That's indeed a very good one. And I believe this documentary on Netflix at the moment is very popular, and I've had multiple people tell me that it's a must watch. So I will pass on the message to everyone. Yeah. And I believe that is the end of our questions. Would anyone like to add any final words? Awkward pause. And I think we're good. Irene, thank you so much for joining us with this chat. The Q&A